hear me?
Yeah, got you.
I got a thumbs up. All right, cool. This is my test automation thinking hat. I saw it a couple of weeks ago over at a steampunk convention, and I said, you know what? I got to have that so I can do some really good professional level automation demos in front of a bunch of people online. But normally, I'm actually known as Paul Grossman. There we go.
You need to get me one of those, Paul.
I could tell I was getting you to crack up while we were in the backstage.
You can get me one of those. You definitely need to get me one of those. I need one.
Absolutely. We'll work that out. All right, so I'm gonna go and share my screen. We'll get started over here because we do have a lot of demos and cool stuff to show. I believe I'm going to share this screen. Next thing I'm going to double check is so we know the mic is working, we know the camera's working, and we should be able to see my screen up here. I'm on that. So
we're good with that.
It's our screen. Awesome. And then we are going to be actually doing some live demos. I just want to make sure the live demo is up there. There's going to be some more live demos with testRigor. But to get started, first of all, let's go back over here. This is our tips and tricks of low-code test tools. I am the Dark Arts Wizard up on Twitter. And if you want to go and check out some of my my YouTube videos, you can check me out at YouTube. Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard. Yes, I have a custom URL. Means a lot of people follow me, so they said, okay, we'll give you a custom URL. No random numbers and letters for you. All right, cool. And do want to thank Zapotec for doing this, hosting this event, and I'm happy to be here. Let's see a little bit about myself to get started. I've been doing test automation for about 20 years. So I've changed my programming language 3 or 4 times. Started off with a tool called Windrunner way back in the day. I still have it with me right there. Keep it with me, and one day I may actually install it into a VM so I can go and still play around with it and get that nostalgic thing. But after I left that, I went into UFT, working in VBScript. By the way, this is C++. We actually called it C++ because it didn't have any pointers on it. Hopefully some developer out there just laughed at that joke. So yeah, I moved into VBScript and did VBScript on a whole bunch of different environments for several years. Turned out you don't need to have the same programming language that your application is developed in. If it's written in Java, your automation framework don't need to be Java. In fact, it can be VBScript. That B stands for basic. That's for us older developers. That's the language we grew up on and were taught when we were coming up in high school in the 80s. But that moved on, and I went into Selenium, Java, and then most recently went into WebDriverIO, which means I changed my language again to JavaScript. I am a conference speaker. As you can tell, I'm here at this conference speaking over here. My clients have been medical device manufacturers, floral delivery company, entertainment delivery, and a survey department at Illinois University. And most recently, I'm working at Guaranteed Rate, rate.com, where we actually get mortgages where we can hook up buyers with sellers, and buyers with lenders in order to get you the best rate for your mortgage. And if you haven't guessed already, test automation is my passion. I love test automation. Talk to me about it all the time. Call me anytime. I'd love to talk about test automation. So I'm going to go move on. Enough about me. I'm going to go over here and talk a little bit about what we're going to learn in the next hour. We want automation, and we want it now. That's what we're going to be doing. So what we're going to do is create a new user for Twitter, get most of the way through, and show off a little bit about SMS and email on that. That seems a little complex for someone just starting and doing some automation. And we're going to show you some of the things, tips and tricks that I learned actually from my programming skills and how they transfer over to a low-code tool like testRigor, which is what I'm going to use for the demos. Usually when I do these presentations, I have this big puzzle piece over here that says, oh, we're going to talk about page synchronization, element clues, and dynamic locators. But what we really want to do is we just want to have an automation framework that just tell me how, I don't care how it's done. Just I want it now. I don't want to be spending a whole bunch of time up front creating a 5-layer automation framework that's really great and self-healing and all that stuff. I just want something that I can create a test and get it done quickly. So we'll talk a little bit about the magic object model reusable modular design, how to interact with elements that may be in one element environment and not in the other. As I mentioned, SMS testing with Twilio. And then we got a bonus session and then a little bit about horizontal testing. Now, I'm going to give you a real life example. Tell me, and while you're looking at this, think how long would it take you to automate all these steps? You want to navigate to the website, click on loan officers, enter the loan officer's name into the first name field, and then wait for the page to build, and then click on the loan officer's name, click apply now, and then you have to do your validations. You want to make sure the page contains the employee name, the phone number, email, their ID, and the URL that when you click apply now one contains the ID of this particular loan officer. And capture a screen at every step, and if there's any errors, capture that. And if possible, just give me a video of the whole process. Show me the whole video as it goes back and forth. How long would it take you to write all the elements, the page objects, and to get through this fairly relatively simple process end to end? Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one more thing. You have to do it 36 more times from a CSV file that has 36 other loan officers. Well, I'm going to give you the answer to this result, and the completion time took me about an hour to build that whole thing. Not in code, in testRigor, and in a codeless environment. And the total execution time for all 36 of these executions was 41 seconds total. Not 41 seconds for the whole one after another, 41 seconds in total. And yes, we did find a wonderful defect right there. When we typed in a person's name in our search, it said, sorry, we don't have any loan officers that meet that criteria, even though that was a valid name. If we typed in the last name, worked perfectly fine. So yay, found a defect. And I love this story because when did this occur? Honest to God, it was yesterday. So I actually got a chance to put in one extra slide into my slide deck based on what I was doing and solving for someone just yesterday. So I love it when I can share a very recent new win with a low-code test automation. Now, to be fair, I am a SDET. I'm a software developer, software test automation engineer. I am hard to be convinced that low-code test tools are worth my time. And the reason being is because there's nothing for me to do. I don't really get to write a lot of code in this. I do sometimes get to write some XPath or CSS, but for me, I want to stay employed, so I always want to do the code. So it's kind of hard to be convinced as an SDET. But as a manual tester, I'm like, yeah, I want to learn all sorts of stuff about automation. I really do. I want to figure out how to do it. And do I have to spend 6 months to 2 years figuring out how JavaScript or Java or Python or Ruby or whatever that is actually works? That's the great thing about having a low-code test automation tool is that you can create your scripts really easy. I'm going to show you what my code looks like side by side over here. Let's say I want to go and click on a button like sign up with phone or email. If I were to do that in code, I'd have to go and create my object over here. So there's my, it's called the get in touch button, but it actually should be sign up with. But okay, I'll have to update that slide later. But anyway, it's a button that we're sitting there, and then we're going to go click on this button. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip from the developer side. I always write wrappers for my code. So it's not just I'm going to go and do an element click on this. I'm going to create my own custom click method, and then I'm going to call that from somewhere and then pass it in the element that I want. In that case, if I pass in an element and it's stale, it doesn't exist anymore, I can add a little bit more funky code in there to try and figure it out so I don't have to have a bunch of maintenance. But in this case, I'm going to show you that we want to go and check and see if this element that we pass in is clickable. And if it is, we're going to go click it. It's great. Is clickable is a great little check. I know there's lots of other things you can do. Is it visible? Is it enabled? All that stuff. If it's clickable, you've already got it's enabled and it's visible out there. If it's not clickable, it's a good chance that your element may exist, but it's on a tab, hiding behind a tab somewhere. If it's not clickable, if we can't do a click on this, if it's not clickable, we're going to click on it. We're just going to say, hey, the element wasn't clicked, and do our assert and say, hey, the test failed, and output some information like which button could not be clicked. Outputting the selector is great. Now, in codeless, click on the sign up with the phone or email button. let's see how that goes in a demo. We're going to do quickly. We're going to switch over here and see how that actually looks. So here are my test cases. I got a whole bunch of them. I'm going to go and start working on my Twitter phone setup over here. I'm going to go edit my test case. First thing I needed to do was I'm going to go and navigate over to Twitter. So to do up my validation, and I want to go, my instructions are to click sign up on email. So I'm going to go and, all right, fine. That's just a regular step. I'm going to go paste that in and just say, hey, click. By the way, the click doesn't have to be all capitals. We could actually make it lowercase, uppercase. You know what? It doesn't really matter. Us humans tend to make mistakes on the way our formatting is. In code, it has to be exact the way, you know, the uppercase, lowercase actually matters. In this case, not so much. So here I'm going to do, I'm going to go and update this and restart it. And we're going to take a look live and see how this actually works out. It is going out here. Let's see, what website is it actually first going out to? Let's take a look. Oh, it's Zappletech's website. Wonderful. Okay, we go over there, but we actually want to create an account over on Twitter. So we're going to basically re-navigate over to Twitter. And there we go. It's saying basically our step is to go and open up Twitter. And boom, we've got Twitter out there. And what's our next step we're going to do? The step says, I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need that. Click on sign up with phone or email. And there's our button. Click with sign up on phone or email. But one thing I wanted to mention is that there was some extra instruction. It says, hey, it says this may change in the future. So what if I would just say, sign up with phone? Would that work, even though it's not the entire exact wording that we've got on the button? While this is going on, I'm going to switch back over here and kind of mention that when we are creating elements, usually when you're in the page object model, you're going to probably write something that says the button text equals sign up with phone. I don't like doing that because that makes that a very brittle element, because if that text behind the scenes ever changes, then you got to go and maintain your elements. To reduce that maintenance on the coding side, you should probably write something like contains text, and we pass in the text and we're looking for sign up with. I don't have the capital S in there because it might be please sign up with, and now the capital S is lowercase s, and then I ain't going to find anything. So I try to keep this as minimal as possible as things change, and usually you pump into stuff that's changing all the time. You can figure out what's going on over there. All right, let's go take a look. Hey, my test case passed entirely. Even though it says click sign up with phone, what does it say over here? It actually found sign up with phone or email. So I'm using this low code tool. I didn't quite exactly give the right text. It was kind of short. I found the right element and moved on. So cool. One thing down, and low maintenance on your coding side and also low maintenance on your codeless side. All right. By the way, you can run different ways. I mentioned you don't have to say click on the button. You can say click the button. You could say click this button. In fact, you could just say click sign up with phone or email. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't necessarily have to have the correct capitalization of there. However, don't let that fool you. It doesn't mean you can't do it. Yes, you can actually use the words click this exactly, and then it will say, okay, if it doesn't have a capital S, we're failing the test. Let's move on. Okay, next, we're going to do a set value and enter. We want to enter something in here. Here's the way I'm going to do a set value. I want to enter my name into my field, my name field. I've got another wrapper out here called set value. And again, it says if it's not clickable, if it's clickable, you can go and enter the value. If it's not clickable, we say, hey, we output something that says hey, the element wasn't editable. And at this point, should we stop the test? We have a try assert that says, hey, this totally failed because the field couldn't be found. Now, me personally, when I do my automation frameworks, I let my fields go. I will say, if I couldn't find it, try and fill out the rest of the field and see if you can go on and output some sort of warning. I generally don't stop on the field. I will stop on a button. If the button doesn't exist, more than likely, you're not moving on to the next spot. In the coldest side, enter Paul into the name field or type Paul into the name field. That's it. That's all I need. We're done. You didn't need to learn a JavaScript in order to do that. Let me go take a look at our demo and see how this is going to work out. I'm going to go edit my test case. And it says here, click on the sign up with phone. And what was I going to do? Enter. I'm going to go set a value. So I need to set a value of the name in here. So I'm going to go and say, enter Paul into name. I believe we're going to do that. We'll make that a capital over there because we're entering the name in there. I don't think there's any other validations we're going to do there. So I'm going to update test this one more time. Oh, I typed one thing. It says here the number of unescaped double quote characters is odd. I forgot to put in a quotes around my name. That's an intentional error, just to show you that this is a great way of debugging your scripts. It actually tells you what's going on out there, and it stays up there for quite a while, and then it goes away, clears out. We're ready to go, update and retest, and we'll let that chug along as we go along. I'm going to come back over here. So basically, I've said enter Paul. I could say type Paul into the name. There's a lot of different ways that I can do that. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to come back over here. We'll take a peek at this and see what's going on. Oh, you know what I mentioned earlier is that I'd like to see a video of all this. I mean, I'm getting screen captures as I go along. That's cool. Hey, sign up with phone. I actually had it had an error, so I'm going to go back to our original one over there. We'll say sign up with phone or email. We'll do that. And by the way, that is a risk that happens with all automation frameworks. Is if you do shorten it down, there is a chance that you're not going to be able to find what you're looking for. I'm going to go take a look at the settings because I was talking about, hey, I'm doing screen captures, but what about video capture? Under testRigor, I actually do have integrations over here, and I can say record video of the test cases as they're going along. So maybe I can catch what was going on out there. You can also do speed optimization. So it's probably, my problem is my timeout. I wanted to make this super fast, and I changed it to 3 seconds. I'm going to change it to 10 seconds over here for the timeout maximum. And we'll hit apply and save on that and make sure that my integrations are, yep, my recording my video is okay. So I'm going to go back over to my test case and take a look at it. Oh, we got a pass. Well, that's a great thing. Let's go take a look at what we had over there. We're going to go take a look and say enter Paul into the name. That's what I wanted to do. Enter Paul into name, and guess what? It found the name field and it typed in my name, Paul. Cool. We're doing great here. And the next thing is we want to put in my phone number, date of birth. We actually want to use an email in order to validate this. But we're going to take a step back real quick, just one moment here. Because the next thing we want to do is, now that we've done an enter and did it pretty easily, the next thing is, well, you know, we've all been told we need to use xPath and CSS in order to create our elements. Can a low-code test automation tool do this? Actually, TestRigor does do it. You just have to say enter Paul into the path, xPath, and give it the locator name as a locator, or do it as a CSS. And I use this as my last, if there's an element that just is almost impossible to find and Selectors Hub gives you a locator, then go for it. Use an XPath or a CSS locator. It doesn't stop you from getting in there. I do want to mention for one moment, I will come back to what I'm going to mention here. We're going to go back over to our test case out here, and we are going to go and enter in that name. Let's take a look at what we had over here. In my demo, I say I want to, use XPath instead and enter Robin. All right, fine, I will do that. I'm going to go and copy this name over here and pop that in. Okay. And then the next one says use a CSS selector and enter in Larry's name. All right, fine, we will do that. So I'm going to go for this first one. I'm going to go and copy in this locator into xPath. We'll do that. And instead of letting the system do it, I'm going to say this is the exact locator that I want. And instead of Paul, I want to put in Robin. Over here, we'll put in Robin. And over here, we want to do pretty much the same thing. We will copy this. We'll put this into here. But this time, we're going to use this, this CSS locator. And we're going to use that to identify our element. So there we go. We're going to go paste that in there. And we are going to say this is a CSS selector, I believe. And I'm going to go and validate this. I'm not sure if it's CSS. It is CSS selector. All right, cool. Fantastic. So I'm going to let that run. We'll retest that and see if we get, oh, wait, did I change Larry's name? I want to make sure that I did that. Edit my test case. Did I put Larry's name? I put Robin's first time? No, we want to put Larry in there because it's not going to be all that impressive if the name doesn't change in the screen capture, is it? All right, Larry, you got your name in the CSS. I'm going to update and retest. Now, while this chugs along, I'm going to go back over here because there was something I wanted to mention about this. You may be asked if you ever get into as an SDET, automation engineer, what is the best way to create your locators? And the internet is going to give you a really bad answer. The bad is always use CSS because why? It's faster. That's the wrong answer. In fact, I use that question when I'm asking people about their experience in automation. It's my little test to see if you are a noob or if you're just intermediate or if you're a pro. Now, the noob's going to say, oh, yes, I use CSS because it's faster. Don't care. The faster speed is within milliseconds. It's not something that you could visibly tell. You would have to put in reporting that says, hey, this was found 4 milliseconds faster than an XPath over CSS. The real reason you want to use a CSS selector is if your elements are in a shadow DOM, because you can't use XPath to find your elements in the shadow DOM. That's cool. That's a reasonable reason to do that. And I will say, okay, you're an intermediate guy who knows what you're talking about and doing over there. The other thing is there's a reason you would not want to use CSS is because over in some examples, we would have to find, we want to find something by text. And I don't have an example on this on the page, but I will go back. Let me see. I'm not sure which slide I've got it on here. But basically, you could replace in an XPath, instead of saying looking for the name property, you could say text, T-E-X-T, in parentheses, and see if it contains the word name. The problem is, as far as I know, that doesn't exist on a CSS. You cannot find an element in CSS by looking for the text that's displayed on the screen in the brackets. Not a thing. So a recommendation is use XPath unless you have to use CSS for one reason or another. You answer those two questions on interview, and you will get a probably a rating that says, hey, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Hopefully the guy's interviewing, he knows what he's talking about. And it's like, hey, the paper says it's supposed to be faster. Let's go jump back over to our test case over here and take a look at what's going on over here. We passed. This is great. And let's go verify. I don't trust that we did that correctly. Okay, let's see. So one of the things that this does is that it actually combines steps together. So it did enter my name, Paul, into the field. Then it replaced it with Robin. And then it entered Larry. How do I know that? Because Larry's name is sitting there. It's the last thing that we executed. And nothing failed. It says everything is looking all good and cool. So we're all happy and cool with that. All right, let's move on to our next part of our demo. We've addressed all the XPath and CSS, so we can do what we do in coding. We can do it in there. Here's our next bonus thing over here. I didn't mention this on our description, but what if you have a button that exists in test in your dev or your staging environment or your QA environment, whatever you call it, but it hasn't been pushed to prod yet. So your script is going to say, I want to create this bogus button. The bogus button doesn't exist, and I want to go click on the bogus button. But if you click on it and it doesn't exist in production yet, your test is going to fail, right? So how do you handle that? Well, again, as I mentioned, I write wrappers, and I have a wrapper that's specific for this. It says click if exists. Instead of just doing click, it says, hey, click if exists. If this element is clickable, go click on it. Okay. If it's not clickable, just say, hey, the element wasn't clickable, but don't fail the test. We're going to comment out our try assert. This is the assertion in WebDriverIO that would stop the test dead. It basically says, yeah, it wasn't there. And in some cases, what happens in real life, we have a button called next. You fill in some field and you put in next. And I am really trying to hope, I'm going to turn this upside down so it doesn't ding. You have a button on your screen that says next in staging, but they realize, hey, once you fill in that one field, you don't need the next button. We're just moving on. So the next button may not exist on the page in production. So we say, hey, click it if it exists. Maybe it comes back. Here's the big point of that is that if it's there, it's missing, or if it comes back, you don't have to go and fix your scripts. That's the big thing in coding. Now, how do you do that in a low-code tool like testRigor? Well, I'm going to say click bogus if it exists. There is nothing that says bogus. There's no button to click on it. And then I'm going to go and do this. And you can do the same thing. You can enter my name into bogus field if it exists. So let's go and verify that that's a real thing. I'm going to go edit my test case. And we're going to come back over here and say, there's my bogus. It says, hey, click if exists bogus. So how would I do that? Well, the slide said there, I could just say click bogus. And by the way, I have dogs. You probably hear them in the background. That's okay. They're all excited about something. Probably another dog. All right. Click bogus. But that's going to fail the test if it's not there. I'm going to say if exists. If it, spell that right, exists. We'll do that. And I'm going to go update this. Hey, I typed the right word in there. I was wondering if it's exist or exists, if it's singular or plural. While this is chugging along, we're going to sit here and go back over and take a look at this, see if there's some other stuff we can talk about. As I said, I do click if it exists. I do wrappers for all my methods. Click, select, assert, and select from a list. You get those four, you get probably 90% of the stuff you want to do in an automation framework. However, I have versions of each one of them. Click if exists, select if exists, select is, each one of them is out there that that the test will continue to run even if I think that the element I'm looking for isn't there. And if it's not there and it's supposed to be, and you move on, well, the next thing is the next button you're not going to be able to weigh. So there's other portions of the framework that are going to catch whatever's going on your path. All right, so I have click if exists. Let's go take a look back over here, and hey, my test case has passed, and I'm going to take a look. It says here, click bogus if it exists. Doesn't fail the test. It says everything is A-OK, and basically more details. Any details on this? Yeah, we put in the names, Robin, Larry over there, on there, and everything was actually okay. But the important thing is that the bogus button did not get clicked on that, so we're cool with that. We passed entirely, so I'm happy that that is working the way it is supposed to work. All right, so click bogus if exists. Doesn't exist on the button, never existed out there, but didn't matter. If it wasn't there, we continued on, didn't fail the test. Awesome. All right, let's look at our next portion over here. Now that we've figured out how to interact with elements that may be in stage but not in production, assertions, we got to check that something's going on over here, right? Okay, so when I do this in WebDriverIO, I use a library called chai assert. And one of the reasons I like it is because, a little side note, it has the ability to do what they call soft asserts. So by default, everything's a hard assert. If I assert something and it's not there, it dies and stops the test. I prefer a soft assert, which says, hey, if it's not there, report the failure, fail the test, but keep going and do the rest of the fields out there, which my ultimate goal is always to try and get my test to finish. Okay, so there's my chai assert. And what I'm doing over here is saying, hey, this element did not exist if it fails. So I'm basically doing an assert of text success. Should be means that if it exists, and then if it doesn't exist, we're going to put out an output there. The text success selector doesn't appear. My selector is this will not be shown publicly. That's the text I am looking for on my page out there. Obviously, I could also set up an element that says, here, I'm going to pass in any string. I generally don't write it like this, hard-coded into my element description. Actually, for the most part, I do because those elements don't change. But in some cases, we want to check different types of text. And I don't want to write 150 different types of elements. I just want to pass a string in here. It's just a side note. Doing it on a codeless side, check the page contains. This will not be shown publicly. Let's go take a look and do that quick demo over here. So I'm looking for, it says assert the page contains, this will not be shown. All right, well, I will say, check the page contains, I misspelled page, you guys can see that. I will do that. Check the page contains, and the text that I wanted to put in here was this will not be shown publicly. Cool, let's pop that in there. And I'm going to go and update and retest and let that chug away. Now, I mentioned earlier that we can do videos, and we'll take a look at the video in just 1 second once this is complete. Over here, he's chugging away, going out over here. Oh, and by the way, I don't necessarily have to change that L. I'm just using Zapple Tech as my starting position. But what you can do is say, you know what, if I have a URL that I always want to start with, my landing page, I put that over in my test suite details so that I had this URL that say, okay, that's the one I want to go to. But you can switch URLs. You can actually set up ways to dynamically change which URL. If you're going to production and then you want to run the same test against staging, you could do it like this. Or you could have a separate project and then share your test cases over to another project that's already pointing at state production and use the exact same test cases you're using in stage. It's really kind of cool. Don't have a lot of time to show that one off today. So here we are. We actually got through all of this. And what was the validation that I wanted to do over here? I want to check that the page contains this will not be shown publicly. Let me go to my screen over here. Let me open it up here, and guess what? This will not be shown publicly. Confirm your own age. Remember, I didn't have to have the entire exact string in there. But it does find that it's put that string up there, and it's all done. It's all cool. All right, so we have done our validation. By the way, some people like to use the word check. Some people like to use verify page contains. Some people will say assert page. It doesn't matter. All these three words will do exactly the same thing and verify that the page contains that information. All right, moving on. We should actually work a little bit with var in there. So in this case, I've got a name, and I've let my variable my name equal to Paul. And then when I'm doing it as coding, I set my value and set the field. The field's going to be this name, and I'm passing in a variable my name instead of an actual hard-coded string. And of course, I do have the set value down here doing the exact same thing. It's checking to see if set value is clickable, and if it is, set the value. And if it's not, say hey, the element was not editable. As I said, when I do set value, I generally will not do a chai assert. I will just do a warning that says, hey, I couldn't find this. This thing wasn't clickable, and here's a screen capture I'll add in there as well. Obviously, I'm already doing the screen captures every single time. So in codeless, we want to say, click sign up with my name and email, and then enter a saved value, my name, into there. All right, so let's go and set some data for this guy, some variable stuff. So the test data I'm going to use, I'm going to go over to my test data over here, and I'm going to go and add in a new text over here. By the way, text, if it happens to be a password, you can have it hidden, and it won't show you what the password is. But in this case, I do want to have it shown, so we'll have the text over here, and we will need something else on this. My variable, so the variable name is going to be, we'll call it my name. It can be spaced out if you want. We can do that. And the value we're going to put in there is we need somebody else's name out here. Let me go check and see if there's any questions that I have. By the way, you can put questions while you're watching the session. On the right-hand side, there's actually a question area that you can throw stuff over there. So I don't see anybody's name popping in there. I should have mentioned that earlier. So we're going to put in somebody else's name over here. Let's see. I like, let's see, what's a good person? I like Woody Woodpecker or Woody Harrelson, whichever you want. We're going to put Woody in there. I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to go back over to my test case, and we're going to change that a little bit. And we will go over here, and we're going to go edit this. That works. Hey, I typed it in there correctly, so that's cool. And we're about halfway through this presentation. Actually, more than 3/4 of the way, because we are going to save a few minutes for questions at the end. So you got about 15 minutes for anything that you've seen in the last half hour. Just put them up there in our question streaming over there and ask away. And at the end, we'll play Stump the Automation Engineer and see if we can answer these questions for you, because I'm always happy to answer stuff. All right, all this stuff, and I didn't have to write any code to figure it out or support it or add it. And I do want to remember that I want to show you the video of this after we're completed. So hopefully this is going to go through, add in my name, Larry's name, Robin's name, and then finally put in, let's see, name did it actually put in over here? Does it work? It put in Woody's name. It actually pulled from the variables and stuck it in there. Oh, I don't believe that. Paul must be faking this whole thing. Let's go take a look and see. Do we have a video of this particular test case? I actually have a video up here, play. I'm going to go click on play. It says, okay, so the video is still in progress. So I'm going to go have to, so we can see your tabs. Okay, cool. That's all right. Hopefully I'm not, not giving away too many things over here. But I can go and hide my tabs. Not like it's okay. We're going to show the bookmark. I will get rid of those over there. Thank you to the moderator for pointing that out. I should have hidden my tabs before. Okay. And at the tabs at the bottom, you can see the tabs at the bottom. I guess I could hide these. Well, we can hide those taskbars. Okay. At the bottom of the screen, no problem. Taskbar settings, lockbar. I want to go and do taskbar settings. While we do that, I will hide that because why not? Lock to automatically hide the taskbar. How about that? Does that look good? I love it when I get instructions from the back, from the back over there. It's like, give me more desk space. We always want more desk space. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Let's see. We're going to go back over here, and we said that we are actually able to do Woody. And what was my presentation? Let me see. Where did our presentation go? I am looking for, I may have somehow stopped it, but I will hit this and Shift F5 and bring it back up. There we go. So we did our variables. We did variables in there. We can have encrypted variables so that you don't get to see them. That's always important to me. So let's move on to modular reusable code. What we need to do is select our birth date. And by the way, every person that we've got is going to have the same birth date. Let's go take a look back at our demo over here. Oh, I'm sorry. One of the points of this is that when working in automation, we may have the exact same things that are being executed over and over. We're going to enter the birth date. Well, every one of our test accounts may have different names, different addresses, different phone numbers, different emails, but they're always going to have the exact same birth date. What do? We create a reusable function, and we call that in every single one of our tests. Can we do that in a codeless approach? Well, let's go check it out. We'll go back over here to our demo over here, and I'm going to, I would do full screen, but I want to make sure that I can switch between stuff here and I don't lose it. So I'm using up 90%, 95% of our screen over there. I'm getting really great tips from back-end people, and they are fantastic. Just want to make sure that the recording, the sessions, everything you see is the best that you can get. And I appreciate all of that. and you guys are awesome. All right, so what was I talking about here? I'm going to go edit my test case, and we're going to go and see what else we're going to do here. Oh, we want to click use email instead. We'll jump around over here. We're going to go and let's see. Let me click email instead with this text. We'll do that. That was a demo for doing it with another locator. There's our demo I was mentioning. You can use text, but you can only do it in a XPath, not a CSS. There is, as far as I know, and anybody can shout out here and remind me, that is if you think CSS can actually use the text from an element to go find it, shout out and tell me I'm wrong. And it's fine. I got things good. Hey, Jen Bauer has a question over here, so I'm going to take a quick peek. Is there a particular scenario that you would have in mind that would benefit from coding your own test suite versus a low code? I'm wondering if there's complexity threshold or other consideration. Particular scenario that you would have in mind that would benefit from coding your own test suite versus a low code. I'm going to answer it this way. Not every tool does everything. And one of the solutions that I came from, and it took me a while to figure out how to do it in TestRigor, it was possible, was a loop that is going through page after page after page to set up a mortgage for our company. The problem is depending on what button you've clicked at, buttons of 3 buttons you clicked at the top, you may not get some of those pages out there. They're missing, or you get more of them, or they're in different orders. And how do you set up a framework that means you don't have to go and retype and retest everything? In my case, I did a code where I had a loop that basically just went around and said, hey, let me see if I can do this with my fingers here. What page am I on? Let me point to the camera. I'll say, what page am I on? Am I on this page? Cool. Populate that one. Then it would loop around and say, okay, what page after I click the next button? I'm on this one? Cool. What's the next page? Oh, I'm on the 4th one. Okay, I'll populate that. And then the last loop goes, hey, am I done? Yeah, okay, great. Create a loop. That's a little bit more difficult to do in low-code test automation tools to have a dynamic path that will keep your flow going. As I said, I always like to have low maintenance and get to the end of my test case. My 2 rule number 1s. I don't have a rule number 2 or 3. I don't know why. But Jen, excellent question, and thank you very much for that. So I'm going to continue on, and hopefully that gives you a good example. But there is a way to do it in TestRigor. I didn't set up for this demo. For me, I think it was faster just to set up a loop in code. All right, we're going to use click on use email instead, and I want to do a variable. I want to generate a unique email and put it in here. So I'm going to go a little bit more advanced over here just because of time. So I'm going to generate a unique email and then enter it into email field and save it as email. So we're going to do that. And the other part of this demo that I was doing is that gets us over to selecting from a list to replace an all test. So what I want to do is select June 4th, 1982, and use that in every single one of my tests. Let me just validate and save and see if I did it correctly. That looks good. All right. I'm going to go do a quick retest. This will take about a minute just to make sure that we can get at the end before I show you how to make reusable modules that get reused everywhere. While that's going on, I'll talk a little bit about that because the tip over here is called reusable rules. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter a new reusable rule, and let's see, I'm going to call it enter birth date. We'll call that. I'm going to spell it right here. Birth date. We'll do that. And I am also going to use it as a label over here. So we'll call it the birth date rule. And we can see that over here. So I'm setting this up while this is running on the other side. And I'm going to go and say, I'm going to say enter hello And this is just so I can have some steps, a step in there, just so I can save it into bogus. There we go. If exists. Cool. I'm going to go save that. And what doesn't it like? Number of unescaped. I missed the quote. I missed the quote in there. It's really great that it shows me off what's going on over here. So we're going to go and save that. And it says, hey, enter birthday was done. So I have a reusable rule called enter birthday. Let me go back to my test case, see if it passed or failed. And it did pass. What did I say last time? I said I was going to show you the video of what this looks like. So let's go knock that one out. And let's see. It actually appeared on my other. Oh no, it's over here. We're cool. So there it is, jumping over from Zappletech, going over to and playing my video back over here. It is. You can see it is a video. It is going to go click the email. It's going to go and hopefully put in all 4 names. Let's see if it does that. Paul, got that one. Now it changes to Robin. Now it changed to Larry, and it changed it to Woody. And then going to go and create a unique email and then put in the birth date, June 4th, 1982. Awesome. What a great little video. All right. I love that. That's fantastic. I'm going to go back. 1 second here. I think I am on 2 different videos. So 1 second here. There we go. So I was talking about this enter birth date. So let me go and explain what I'm talking about here. We want to reuse the same code in multiple tests. You can see I have a whole bunch of tests over here that I've got in here. This was my demo that I did. I'm going to edit my test case, and you're going to see down here I have these 3 lines of code. Select June 4th and all that stuff. I'm going to go copy that. Now, the interesting thing is that in my other test cases down here, like this backup, I have the exact same lines of code. Not better. They are. But why should I copy this? If I change the date or the month of the year from a in all my tests, I'd have to go and manually go change that. That's the biggest mistake that everyone makes with record and playback when they're doing it. I don't want to make that mistake. You'll quickly learn that you need to create methods, functions. So I'm going to go over to my reusable rules back over here. And I am going to go and take, we're going to go enter birth date. As I said, I just put this in here just as a placeholder. And I'm going to go replace it with this. June month, day over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say save and find replace steps. And if this works, we should get, look at this. We have 1, 2, 3 of my test cases have the exact same steps in them. So I'm going to go replace those selected items. And remember, the name of this reusable rule was entered birth date. So I'm going to go back over to my test cases, and let's go take a look and see if those steps are in there. Edit my test case, and what has happened? Those steps that I had, remember I had these steps over here, they're gone. They have been completely replaced with a brand new rule that I called enter birth date. Now this actually brings in one other thing that I would mention over here is someone says, okay, well, what if I want to do this like Gherkin? I want to say, instead of this, I want to say, when I enter birth date, what will that, can I do it like that? And absolutely, I'm going to go and validate and update. It says, okay, there's no action called that, so I will do it this way. So undo this. I'll close this out. I'll go back over to our reusable rules, and instead of calling it enter birth date, we could call it when I enter birth date. And now I'm going to go and save and then find an update name. I'm going to do that. It says I found it in 3 different spots. Update the name. I'm going to go back over to my test case. And then I'm going to go take a look at my test case and edit it over here and see if it says, does it say Now it says when I enter the birth date. So yes, you can actually do Gherkin-like methods in this. And this also ends up being more like a page object model because you could have your pages described as reusable rules and then have each page go through and populate data. Which brings me back to Jen's question was with my example, once I've got these rules set up as pages, I can loop through them and say, hey, which page am I at? Okay, execute this rule, execute this rule. It's kind of cool. All right, let's see. I'm going to go and retest that, and I have just a few minutes left. Again, a reminder, if there's any questions you have at the end, throw them in there. Jen's doing an awesome. Jen says, dynamic test path is a great example. Thank you. You're welcome, because I spent a lot of weeks figuring that one out. I actually leveled up in my automation engineer going, how in the world am I going to get this thing to create a mortgage? When I say this thing, I meant my own framework in WebDriverIO. That was the major thing here. So we are going through and we are going to hopefully populate our birth date out there. Let's see, what's my next? I guess I'll stick here. We'll wait for it to kind of complete. Hopefully we don't get any errors. I do want to point out something over here. You may have noticed my first item over here is pink. It's not a fail. It's not a pass. It's saying there's something going on here that we're a little concerned about. So it's detected an error, but it's not an error that I was looking for. It actually is looking behind the scenes. This may be a little bit hard to see, but it says here, uncut type error symbol iterator is not a function. So what this means is that there is an error on the backside. Example tech. The cool thing is that this is not a showstopper error. It's benign. Nobody knows that that error is occurring. It's not stopping Zappletech's website from occurring, but it is something you could go into a stand-up meeting and say, hey guys, I don't know what this really means, but you might want to go take a look at it. I got the line number over here, and go check that out and see, is this something that might be an issue in the future? And maybe we can make sure that our code looks great, even though I know nothing about how they wrote it or what they did. So I think that's another cool thing. Not something I could actually get into in my automation framework. It would take me years to figure out how to do that. So we did pass. That's great. And at the very end, I should have the birth date selected over here. And check it out, June 4th, 1982. And all my test cases would do that, but we now have it as a reusable rule, basically the same as the method. What's our next thing going on is, oh, bonus, you've got mail. So now I want to do a validation from Twitter, and it's going to do it through mail. Let's see how we're doing on time, make sure we're okay. I'm going to go edit this. And by the way, that's one of the reasons I don't like to hide my bottom of my tabs, is because it has my timer on it telling me, hey, Paulie, don't go over running this because, Robin wants to talk for a little while too. And I do want to be respectful of Robin. So to do this, I'm going to go and say, hey, I'm going to go and from this point, I'm going to go and use my sign up. We're going to do a Julia Child trick over here. You always, if anybody ever watched Julia Child, The Joy of Cooking, she would take a uncooked turkey and put it in one oven and then pull a fully cooked turkey out of another. I'm about to do the same thing. I'm not going to. So basically what we're doing over here is that I am going to go and do something really cool, is that I am going to go and check that check an email. We're going to have this send an email, and then basically we created a unique email, and we're going to send that email, have testRigor check that the email was received, and then grab the value from that email. And in that email, it says this verification code, and we're going to save it as a code, and we're going to switch back over to our first browser, and then we're going to SMS that message to a code. I'm going to hit update and restart, and we're going to go retest this, and you'll see exactly how that goes, because we are running a little short on time, and I do want to get two more things that's pretty cool out this, and how you can use Twilio. Twilio does SMS messaging and emails, and also has a virtual phone numbers. I actually have my own Twilio phone number, and we use that because our manual testers are trying to create new accounts, and they have to use their own personal phone to get that code. You can use an automation, a Twilio account, to go pick up that code, and not, if you ever happen to leave the company and your own personal phone number is in some sort of automation script, you might get phone calls for the rest of eternity as long as the automation tests continue to execute. And we don't want to be going and, doing that. All right, so we are chugging along. And right now it is, I think, going over to, we'll pop over here and take a look at this. It says, we sent you a super secret code. So go take a look at your email. So here's my email from Twitter to verify that my account is a solid account. And then this is the number that it picked up, 553617 that it sent to me. And then I am going to go over here and it says, hey, go enter that code that I picked up. Grab the value from the text below this verification code. So it picked up this value. You can see it's doing that. And then go and switch to tab 1. So it's basically 2 tabs. One's the email. The other one is our Twitter tab. We switch back to the Twitter tab. It says, okay, here you go, and populate that code into the validation code. I believe I launched this before it got to the end over there. So we will do it this way. We'll look, and there it is. It populated the code into the account. And the last thing I'm doing is the validation is you'll need a password. I believe that says check the page contains the word password. That's where we're going to stop on that. You can see how we went all the way through to creating this this new account on Twitter. Yes, I probably am upsetting Elon Musk because he was wanting to see how many fake accounts there are. You could do this making a fake account. I'm not my intention trying to create a bunch of fake accounts on Twitter. It was more to demonstrate how you can use Twilio, virtual phones, SMS messaging, all that stuff without having to learn how to do any code, and use that in your own personal projects in order to get some automation done, ASAP. All right, so we have our validations. We got all that stuff. I just did want to do one other thing over here. I have another test over here, which is send me a message. I'm going to go and show you what that says. It says over here, send SMS message to saved value, the Dazarox phone. The Dazarox phone is my personal cell phone, which I do not give out to anybody. It actually sends a message. It takes a Twilio phone to send the message to this phone, if that kind of makes sense. So I am going to watch 2 screens at once. Hopefully this works. I don't need to have that charge. I'm going to have my phone up here. I'm going to go and validate and save, and I'm going to retest this and tell it, hey, go send me a message. And it is chugging away, and hopefully you will see a message appear on my screen like magic, and I didn't have to write any code. It's chugging away. It's in queue. It is process. It is executing, and I am stretching, and boom, we just got the message from Twilio over here saying I got a message. And what does the message say? The message says the code was 4242. If I had time, I would have asked someone to get a random number, but that is exactly what we had over here saying, hey, go send code 4242 to Paul's personal phone. That's kind of cool. I'm pretty sure you could probably see a use case for that. Let's go one last step further. And what is that? You got mail. Cool. You get an SMS message. I just did that using Twilio to send from their cloud phone to my cloud phone. That was a cool demo. And our last bonus, you got a phone call. You can automate a phone call. Check this out. Last thing, we're going to go and take a look at our test case, and it says, call saved value, the Dazarox phone, from saved value from my Twilio phone, and verify it is ringing. I'm going to close this out, and we're going to go and retest. All right, everybody. I'll pull my microphone a little bit closer here so that you can see this. We're chugging away. It's in queue. I love this demo. This is the best one. Now, it is actually running these test cases up in the cloud. Come on. It says it's in progress. This is really cool. It's running. Hey, I got a phone call. Check it out from my Twilio number. We'll answer that.
Greetings from testRigor. Please disregard this call.
Isn't that cool? Made testRigor call my phone. Sorry for the bump on the mic there. I got testRigor to call my phone from its phone. I think there's one last thing to do in this demo. I think you guys are pretty impressed. Horizontal testing. And what that means is horizontal testing means, oh, that's great, cool and all, Paul, but what will this work on other environments? And so you could go and say, yes, I want to go test it on Windows, but I don't want to test it on Windows. I want to test it on Edge. And I'm going to go add that browser. And then I also want to do it on Mac, and we'll go test it on Safari, and I'll add that browser. I will save that. I'm going to go back to our last test case. We're going to go run it for one last time. The only thing here is that it is going to, we'll retest this. And the cool thing is that once it starts executing, we're going to see 3 different environments. By the way, you can do up to 9 on this combination. And we are going to go and jump to something real in 1 second here. Since we've got this execution over link. So I'm going to jump to that, and you'll get a better view of what I mean. Here are 3 environments over here. TestRigor under, we're doing Ubuntu. We're under Chrome. We're testing under Windows and Edge. So we are now basically taking our same test case. We add more test cases. We go vertically. Now we're going out this way and testing on different operating systems and different browsers. And I bet you the next question is, but could you do this on a mobile device? My answer to that is absolutely. So here's my test cases. They're chugging away. And by the way, they do run parallel to each other. So they're very quick to execute on that. It really depends on how many virtual machines that you buy in order to do that. If you get an open source account with testRigor, you get 1 virtual machine. But if you actually decide, hey, this is pretty cool, I want this, they have deals where you can get 2, 3, 4 and execute your test cases concurrently on that. This guy is chugging away. This actually tells us, hey, well, we might have an issue with working in Mac on Safari. So we would have to go back and look at that. But everything else, these guys are passing and chugging along. And I did want to go back and since we did the extension out there, what I'm going to do is get back, and we will be wrapping this up in just a minute. I am looking to see if there's any other questions. Anybody, this is your last chance because we're in the last few minutes of this. I'm going to go back to my site, and let me go take a look at my time. We're actually at home, so I don't have time to do it anymore. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, that was very, very interesting and inspiring there as well. I see, but as you can see, we completely run out of time on this one. But what I would say is, for the wider audience out there, anybody who have any questions, you could still pop the questions in or email out the questions, and we have all Paul details and stuff like that. Yeah, Paul, thanks again. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
No problem. Thank you.